Welcome to the Making Foundation. This is Make the Most. I am here to see if we can check in. I wanted to check on the progress of your 10 foiled boats, but also I wanted to present some new concepts to you today, and that is dealing in the realm of light sources and drawing with shadows. We can do a whole lot of stuff, but here at the Making Foundation, we have a whole lot of natural light that floods this space. So I had to find a tiny dark corner in our kitchen, which is pretty neat. So let's go check it out. Come on. Okay, so in our kitchen, it gets pretty dark. I'm gonna show you how dark. Check this out. Very dark. So in here, I've got a lamp that we made at the Making Foundation. It is of a twig, but I wanted to show you how you can use light to project light sources on the wall to create shadows. So I'm gonna get in the way a little bit. First off, if we look at this is a piece of aluminum foil like we were dealing with yesterday. You can sculpt faces and crinkles. It's not a very good face, but you can kind of see it. It's got a little pointy nose. So that's one way that you can use that. You can use paper, all kinds of stuff, and you can sculpt different things out of it. So that's one way. Out of the ways that we used our creatures from yesterday, or 2 days ago, or 4 days ago, whenever it was, you can actually use them to make puppets. And this is something that we call an aperture. So it's something that light shoots through. And the smaller that we can make our aperture, the more diffused the light source will be, which will make a crisper shadow. So if we can look at that. And some light bulbs get really hot, so you'll want to talk to your parents about that first. But we can use that to project light onto the wall. If we move our light sources, or if we introduce another light source, that will change the shadow as well. I have a handy dandy flashlight. Here we go. So a flashlight also changes that. You get a crisper shadow. So you can introduce some of the sculptures that you may have already made in some of our other challenges, like your airplane or your hand characters, and make scenes as you go. Now we said shadow drawing, which is pretty explicit, so let's see if we can draw a shadow. I've got my handy dandy Brontosaurus here. He's one of my favorite characters. And I also have a piece of tape and a piece of paper. So I'm going to stick that behind my Brontosaurus. See if I can get his profile. Remember how we talked about interesting profiles? I think Brontosauruses have pretty neat profiles. So I'm going to draw him on this piece of paper. I'm just going to outline. Here's my Brontosaurus face. I'm going to be careful not to draw on the wall. Finding a blank wall is another thing that's something to contend with. So we had to take a couple of pictures down off the wall to get this blank space. This Brontosaurus looks pretty lonely, so I'm going to draw him a couple of, let's see if I can get a person in here with him. Here's my person. This is my Brontosaurus's friend. I'm going to call him Joe. I'm going to draw Joe on here. Joe has a shirt. Joe has an arm and a hand. So we moved Joe a little bit, but that's okay. We can line Joe's shadow back up. And we can finish drawing Joe. Careful not to draw on the wall, because that'll make somebody really mad. And since you're stuck at home with them, you don't really want somebody to be mad at you. Let's see. Okay, so we've got a Brontosaurus and a friend named Joe. Can we add an alligator to this? I think so.
So I think one of the lessons we can learn is light source needs to stay parked in one spot.
For sure. Yes.
So I think that would help on...
So another thing is that if you've got anything that's translucent, you can actually shoot through that to change your scenescape and the color. So we've got a bunch of different concepts that are kind of being introduced here. Let's see if we can get this tree in here. I'm going to build a shadow scenescape behind that. So let's move this drawing. Let's see if we can get a shadow of a bunch of things going on. guy without an arm. It's okay, he still has friends. My friends aren't feeling, they didn't drink their coffee today. You know how that goes? Alright. So if we have a light source that has that aperture over it, it changes the shadow from being one-dimensional to two-dimensional. Makes it even crisper. The characters that we have made, we can also introduce to that. Let's see, I've got this big buddy. So we have a flying panda going over top. Other dinosaurs. Check out different light sources and see what that does. So if you wanted to make a moving scenescape where people seem like they're moving, that's another way to do that. You can make things really big too. If you change how low your light goes and how high your light goes, things change shape. And if we use our aperture to tighten that, it gets even stranger.
Looks like a giant monster. This would be cool if you had access to like a tablet or an iPad. You could even film your shadow characters.
Like a movie.
Yeah.
You can make your own movie. Like I know at my house I have toys because who doesn't, right? So in that you can introduce different characters. Robot Dad comes in, hey, y'all cut it out. Y'all are being crazy. Brontosaurus is like, I don't think so, man. We're just trying to have a good time. But it's time for social distancing. Good point. Let's go away. So, I do like the idea of different things that you can shoot through to change the color of your scene, especially if you're using that tablet for making movies.
Oh, yeah.
Don't stand that close. Get 3 feet away. Okay. Let's see. Got a duck too. If you have siblings, you can actually trace your siblings. So you can have a sibling sit in front of your piece of paper and you can actually outline the shape of said sibling. Putting their hair up in a ponytail, like this Brontosaurus's neck, it has a lot of definition, so it really showcases and making sure you can get a good nose. Goes back to our aperture. You can also use your hand for aperture. Light is pretty weird, and you can do a lot of things with it depending on how bright your light source is, or how stationary, or how far away it is. Another good time to play with this is at night. So let's say all these people go away. Let's say it's just you and the street light. Let's see. Look how much detail was in that sculpture. That was out of a cardboard tube. We got all kinds of that stuff at home, right? So these guys are just hanging out. And then we can trace those things. see. If you don't like the characters that you have, you can make your own.
Oh, cool. Got like double shadows.
That looks like different distances from the camera. That looks like double the people. You can make your own crowd of people. You don't have to find one. I'd like to see your examples of shadows and what you can do with them. This is something that you can do pretty much for free, and I appreciate that because it's not, we can't just go out to the store and buy whatever we want these days. So you can kind of make the most out of what you've got at home. See if you can create your own scene. What would you like to be doing right now? And build your own world so that you can kind of imagine that you're there. So yeah, this is today's version of Make the Most. I'd like to encourage you to play with light and shadow, use different lamps that you have around the house. Different light bulbs have different intensities. You can use different size apertures, so you don't have to use a piece of cardboard. You can use a piece of tin foil, you can use a piece of paper. As you draw shadows on pieces of paper on the wall, be sure not to write on the wall because that's a sad time for everyone, but also it will be fun. An example would be if you sit in front of a light, you can actually trace friends of yours, like that one, like that friend.
Yeah.
Elsa, look that way. Look at the closet. So you can get a good nose in there, and you can get a good face, and you can outline a whole bunch of different things. And I encourage you to play with that a little bit. So please send us those and hashtag them, Make the Most. This is the Making Foundation, and we appreciate you tuning in.
Do we have any ingredients or materials we need for tomorrow's project?
We sure do. So tomorrow we're going to do a little bit of bookmaking. And I want you to think outside of the box. What are things that we can make books out of that maybe aren't paper? Can we use different pieces of fabric? Don't cut your clothes up, but if you have a pair of clothes that you're not wearing anymore or getting dirty, or your old paint clothes, we can stick those together and make a fabric book. We can also make books out of different leaves. So bee collecting in your yard, a bunch of different things that pretty much for the most part lay flat, but they don't have to be solid like a piece of paper. So collect those things, a string and a needle if you can, one that you can thread, and then that way we can kind of make our strange found object books.
Cool.
Cool.
Awesome.
We'll see you in tomorrow.
Bye, have a great day.
Bye.